There's a greater you on the inside of you means being above normal, understanding your worth, and being confident in knowing who you are. But the first person who has to realize that there's a greater you on the inside of you is you. In life, we all go through stages of the good, the bad, and the ugly, which leads us to our purpose and promise. UTCM is a platform where you get to share your story and your truth of unmasking moments that allows you to embrace all stages in your life. UTCM looks forward to many people being able to unmask, uncover, and unveil themselves on the podcast. Thank you for watching and joining us. Hey, we live! All right, let's go. We are live. Let me just make sure. Okay, I got it. All right, good. I was just checking. I usually have my phone on the side too, just to make sure everything is.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I'm backstage, front stage. I'm the host.
Yep.
Right? I'm doing it all.
You're doing it all. You're doing a good job, though. You got it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your yes.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I'm super excited. Once I heard you for the first time speaking, I think it was either on Instagram or Facebook. I can't remember. But it was a reel, and it was just so powerful and impactful. And then when we had a conversation, it was even more powerful and impactful. So I'm like, I mean, why not? He definitely needs to come on to UTCM. So welcome. Hey everybody, welcome to season 5, episode 4. I think it is 4, episode 4. Yeah, another good episode. I'm ready just to dive right on in, for real. Yes. I really am. So right, I know there's probably, well, I want to know more about you. Yeah. Right? And I'm quite sure people who are coming on would like to know more about you too as well. So give us a little snippet about KeyShawn. Who is KeyShawn?
Yeah. So, but first and foremost, before I do that, I do want to give you your flowers as well, and just thank you for giving another platform for us to tell our story. A lot of times we don't, can't tell our story, right? And but we have to be able to have platforms like this that can give us our flowers, right? To be able to help those and reach out. So I thank you for that. And for those that don't know me, or those that do know me, my name is KeyShawn Phelps. I am an award-winning engineer, author, speaker, known as the Mindset Shifter, right? And I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, where life wasn't always easy, but I learned quick that your mindset can either make or break you, right? And I just took everything that I went through, flipped it, right? And now I travel to schools, organizations, just helping people do the same thing, right? By just showing them how to turn that struggle into a strategy, right? Into an obstacle, into now to the opportunities, right? And I'm just all about just pushing people to see their own greatness, right? I call myself the battery pack, right? If you put me into your organization, they're going to take off, right? When I talk to somebody, they just going to be feeling lifted and feel like they can do whatever they put their mind to. So that's just me in a nutshell, right? Just a kid that's energized, motivating, right? Driven. And I think that's wraps me up right there.
Wow. I mean, and, it's when you were saying all that, right? It just reminds me of, we go through to bring others through, right? So the reason why we experience what we and sometimes we don't realize that when we're going through it, right? Like that's not always the mindset. But once you take hold and grab hold to like, wow, maybe I could use this, right? You know what I'm saying? And I switched that perspective. And that's exactly what you did. So as you were talking, I'm like, yeah, he just grabbed hold to it. And he like, you know what? I'm not going to allow, you know what I'm saying, what I experienced to define me anymore, which you did a lot in your questionnaire. And we're going to dive in. We're going to kind of lay it out too as well, so that people can get to, you know what I'm saying, hear your story a little bit more too. So I always ask all my guests this question. And first, I want to thank you for being so transparent, so vulnerable with your questionnaire, right? Like, I can tell you took the time and you sat with yourself to really speak to your process and speak to your story. And I felt it as I was reading the questionnaire. So I want to thank you for taking the time out to really answer it, authentically as you. But tell me, how did you feel about the questionnaire?
Oh, I loved it. I feel like it gave me some time to do some self-reflection, right? To be honest, be vulnerable. And I think that's what was needed, right? And one of the things that I always feel like when you get things on paper, when you get it out, you feel better, right? And I think that was a great questionnaire. And I think we, like I said, you got to know me a little bit and things like that. So I feel like it was really good.
Good. Awesome. Listen, that's all. I'm like, I want to make sure, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, as you grow and develop, sometimes you may need to tweak something,
Yep.
right? So I'm always, tapping in with my guests to ask them, like,
Gotcha.
how did it make you feel? Like, what was
Right.
your thought about the questionnaire? And it's always good to hear the feedback of like, I think the what everybody kind of says, pretty
Uh-huh.
much all the guests is like, it allowed me to self-reflect.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And that putting it in black and white is it's something different, right? Because when you
Yeah.
actually see it, you know what I'm saying, like, and you're writing it out, you're like, wow, right?
Yep.
It takes you back to like, dang, I really grew. Like I came a
Yep. I
long
really did. I really did a lot. Yep.
for real, for
Yep.
real. So when I was thinking about this podcast and like as I was reading your questionnaire, right, you speak a lot
Mm.
about like fuel and you know what I'm saying, and the things that you did go through, right, and how
Yeah.
it fueled you to your purpose, right?
Right.
So I thought about this. I came across this quote and I kind of just
Mhm.
want to get your take on it, right? So it
Okay.
says, shift your mindset from why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this, and watch
Mhm.
your perspective change. And I know
Mhm.
you talk a lot about that in in your motivational
Yeah.
speeches and and all the things that you do. So kind of talk about shifting that mindset, like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and you changed your mindset of like, dang, like, why this keep happening to me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna grow from it. Like, speak
Right.
to.
Yeah. I really feel with that quote because, like I said, one of the things is just having honesty with yourself, right? Like I said, a lot of times I had to stop seeing my circumstances as limitations, right? And start, like you say, speaking of them, using them as fuel. And I knew, like, growing up in Newark with like all of the challenges around me, you start to get that victim mindset, I call it, where you was like, woe me, right? But after a certain time, those stories, right, start to sound the same, right? And they always say that if you put your problems, everybody put their problems in a pile, right? You probably take yours back, right? Because you see it's worse out there. And I think that's one of the things for me. It started growing and realizing that those wasn't stopping stones for me. Those were challenges, right? It was for me to realize that my environment wasn't going to define me, it's going to refine me, right? And just the turning point came for me is when I started being around other people that didn't come from my background, right? And two things, right? One of the things was it gave me that fuel to say, man, I come from the bottom, right? I can do whatever I put my mind to, right? Because I came from worse. But it also too showed me that nobody care about what you went through, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you're not going to take ownership of it and come from it, right? Because it started to sound like the same old story. So that's one of the things I did for me is just changing the whoa me, right? And there was a story that I read, and it was talking about twin boys, right? And they grew up in father in a home where their father was very abusive, right? Alcoholic. This wasn't the right environment. And just growing up in that, they got older, right? And one of the brothers, he went down a path of destruction, right? Just drinking, unemployment, just life of crime, just spiraling right down the wrong path. And someone asked him, like, man, like, why did this happen? And he was like, man, with a father like that, what else did I have to do? Like, what else could I have become? Right. This is what my environment showed me. And then his twin brother, right, on the other hand, super successful, family, right, good career. And when they asked him, why he's so successful, he said, with a father like that, why would I ever want to be like him? Right. So just it shows you the mindset of saying why me and not why not me, right? And why can I be better? And I think that's the real key to shift your mindset from why me to why not me. Yeah.
Why not me? Now
Yes.
Lord have mercy,
Yeah.
KeyShawn.
Yes.
You said a lot,
Mhm.
right? And you mentioned that in your questionnaire.
Yeah.
You mentioned about being at the bottom,
Yes.
right? So do you feel like at one point when you were, here, because like you said, you were born and raised in Newark,
Yeah.
right? Do
Yeah.
you feel like there was a moment where you felt yourself kind of going to the left? And if
Oh, yeah.
you did, right, you were
Mhm.
going to the left. Can you speak to what that moment looked like for you? And
Mhm.
then how did, I'm saying, when did the transformation come about?
Yeah. So they say, a smart man learns from, his mistakes, but a wise man learns from others' mistakes, right? And just growing up, like I say, my family and things like that, and where I come from, the environment, I had a lot of friends and family that, like I said, lost to, street violence, right? Whether that was jail, whether that was, in the grave. And I see where that path took me, even with my own father, right? Like I said, I lost my father to the system at an early age. So just growing up in that, I knew that I wanted to be better than that. I wanted to be there for my mom and family and my little brothers. I wanted to be that role model. I wanted to be that light to show other people, like, man, like, we don't have to hustle to make a living, right? We can be successful doing something else. And I think for me, I think those moments took when, like I said, just going through life and just seeing different things and seeing some of the troubles that other people had. I said, I know I don't want to go through that. And just reflecting and understanding that if I stayed down, right, that I can always come up. And one of the things too, I remember my mother told me when I was, acting up and getting in trouble. And I remember she told me, she said, like, how could you provide for me, right? Because growing up in that, like, say, in that neighborhood or growing up in that environment, you like, man, I gotta do something for Mom Dukes. I gotta help out. I gotta jump in the streets, whatever you wanted to do to make some money to help out. I remember my mother told me, she said, like, how are you going to help me if you behind bars, or even worse, you in the grave? And I just
Mm.
sat there and reflect, like, that is true. A lot of times it's like that dangling fruit over you, like, oh, if you do this real quick, you could get a quick, fast money. But no, that's just a fairy tale, right? And that's just something that leads you to a path or a distraction. And like I said, I know a lot of movies. I watch a lot of, crime movies and things like that. I ain't never see a successful, criminal, right? Like, everybody always had a sad ending, and I knew I didn't want to have that sad ending. So I had to change something quickly, and that's what I did.
And so I love that you spoke about your mom, right? Like you mentioned your mom
Yeah.
and her saying to you, right, like how can you provide, right? And you're saying that you want to provide, but you know what I'm saying? There's two ways out, right? And listen, I don't know
Hmm.
nothing about the streets. However, I've
Yeah.
had conversations,
Yeah.
and of course my husband's, Steve very
Yes.
well. Like
My
he
God.
knows the street too, right? So he is always, educating me, right? That's what we're gonna
Yes.
call it,
Hmm.
educating me about, what I'm saying, the mindset, right? And
Yeah.
there's only two ways out, right?
Yeah.
It's you either gonna be behind bars, like you said,
Yep.
or in the grave,
Yeah.
right? And I just feel like it's so befitting,
Hmm.
right, because it is Women's History Month. And I
Hmm.
thought even I was very strategic about
Yeah.
having you be the last, it being the end of the month, right? And having a male figure as the guest for Women's History, right? And
Hmm.
I just love how you spoke about your mom and how, what I'm saying, she just gave you that little gem,
Yeah.
right? To kind of have you sit like, wow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you had to
Yes.
think about that, like, yo, she onto something,
Yeah.
right? So my question to you is, so we know already, right? The person
Hmm.
who had a significant impact on you, right,
Right.
would be your mother,
Right.
right? But how has her influence shaped your perspective?
I want to say by action, right? Like, I seen, like, my mother work countless jobs, right? Just trying to provide for me and my siblings, right? And not once did she complain about it, right? And I think that right there gave me the motive and energy to be like, man, why I'm complaining when I'm tired, right? I'm not going through nothing compared to what, Mom Dukes is doing, right? So I think for me, she always led with the wisdom, and she always led with action. And I think that right there showed me that if you, continue to just keep your head forward, continue to educate yourself, that anything is possible. And I think, like I said, I give kudos to my mom for putting up with me, dealing with me, right, and just being a really positive role model in my life when she could have gave up and could have quit many times. Right, she had every excuse too, right, single parent, and things like that. But she continued to keep going and kept leading me to a path of success. So I really give my success to her, and I thank her for all of the sacrifices she did for me and my siblings.
Wow.
Mhm.
And I know, like usually most of the time, when you're in it, right, you don't really
Yeah.
look at it like
Yep.
that, right?
Yep.
Like, you like, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Yep.
don't you young, right? And you
Yep.
going to school and not realizing until you actually become an adult and say,
Mhm.
wow, mom really did sacrifice a lot,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
it's funny you say that because I'm on my little brothers and sisters them now, man. Some of the stuff my mother used to always tell me, like I ain't want to listen, right? Like my mom used to always be like, get your head in a book, like read some books, right? Like me, I was like, no, I'm playing sports, like I'm going to the league, like I don't need to play, I don't need to read no books, and now, like, man, you can't get me out of a book. Like I'm constantly reading, constantly educating myself, and I always tell myself, like, man, like if I just would have listened to my mom, like man, like that my brain would have been out of here, right? So I'm catching up on a lot of things that I should have been doing at early ages that could have helped, even exceeded where I'm doing now and propel me to even more heights. But like I said, it's a lot of wisdom she always gave me that I just, like I say, you don't really listen. They go out one ear out the other. But if you just would have kept that knowledge in, man, and that information, well, we would have been out of here.
And and that is it's crazy, right? Because
Mhm.
now, when I sit back and I look at my children
Mhm.
now, and Steve and my youngest son, they're always like button heads, but they're like the same person, copy,
Yeah.
uh, right? He don't like to hear that, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's always telling him, like, you know what I'm saying, like trying to give him that knowledge and that wisdom of like, listen, like I've been there before. And
Yeah.
it's crazy, it's just like a cycle that kind of repeats itself, right? Because when
Right.
again, when your parents are telling you stuff, you like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I got time. I got Yep.
Right? But I also want to, because you did say like you wish you had, but I really, if you had not gone through all of what you gone through,
Yep.
right? You wouldn't be where you are today, and then
That
you
is
wouldn't
true.
be making such an impact,
Yep.
right? Because it would have been like, okay, like I got it, I know it all,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
nah, you had to go through what you went through to
Yep.
be able to kind of, you know what I'm saying, bring other
Yeah.
people through, because it's
Eh,
nothing like lived experience.
yep. And
Evidence based is good, books
mhm.
is good, but when
Mhm.
you live it,
Yep.
that's real.
Yep. And that's why I always say, like, say, God leads your steps and guides your steps. And a lot of times we have our own plans, but God have his for us, right? And I feel like this is the purpose. This is my purpose, right? To, like, you spoke earlier on it, of how, like, the lessons is not, always about like, oh, like, oh, well, me, right? But it's something that you can pass down, right? And a lot of things that I went through just growing up, just going to college and things like that. Like now, all the experience that I have got, now I'm teaching those that I come encounter with, right? Just to try to uplift them so they don't bump their head, right? And why they could be wise. So I think, like I said, that is really true.
Yeah. Yeah. And you should definitely be proud of,
Yes.
how far you have come,
Oh yes, I
right?
am. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That, I mean, it's just super, is dope to see, someone willing to go through the process,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Like, and
Takes
that's
time. Yep.
because we don't really, just to be honest, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna speak for myself. Process is ugly.
Hmm.
Process is not fun. Process is uncomfortable,
Right.
right? And sometimes we want to just, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we want to have that microwave, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying, fix. Like, you know what I'm saying,
Yep.
real quick. Right
Yep.
now, you need that, you know what I'm saying, that oven baked
Yep.
stuff, right? Like
Yep.
all the ingredients gotta bake together, and that's it. Like, you impatient. You don't want to
Yeah.
wait.
Yep. And that speaks to I was telling a couple kids the other day that I was speaking to at a school, that, like, think of like a sculptor, right? And how it's just a big blob of nothing, right? And at each hit, every time he just carving out a new masterpiece, right? But just imagine if he would have stopped, right? Imagine if he would have gave up after 2 hits and be like, all right, I'm done, I don't see it, right? But he just kept carving and kept carving away till it became something beautiful. And that's just how our life is, right? We going through life and we learning and we adapting, right? And we just growing to become the person, or the person that we needed to be. So I think that's one of the things where I say, anytime I go through something, I'm like, what can I learn from this? Right? Like, what are you trying to teach me, God? And I
Mhm.
think that's something right there that's been helping me to, one, calm down and just assess what's going on. And like I said, just take that fuel and turn it into something positive. So I definitely agree with just taking time to trust the process and not rush. I call it IG, right? Instant gratification. A lot of times we want things to happen like that, but it don't happen like that. It's on God's timing. So yeah,
It really
definitely.
is.
Yep.
That's right there. That is so true. That's what I'm like in a season of really learning
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to take time,
Yep.
right? And you got to be willing to just allow time to take time.
Yep. You got to, and
Yeah.
you gotta be working as you going, right? Like you said, they said, oh, faith without works is dead. You know what I'm saying? So just understanding that it's going to take time, but what can I do now and in this moment to be prepared and be ready? So when that curtain does open and I'm on stage, I can light it up because I've been preparing for years and years for this moment. So when it's come, like you're not caught off guard. And one of the things too that I love Deion Sanders, he said practice like it's a game, right? So when a game does come, it feels like practice, right? And when you're in practice, it feels easy, right? So just one of those things of just continue to just keep putting in that work and just keep getting better each and every time.
And so you also mentioned, right,
Mhm.
with what you have self-discovered about
Mhm.
yourself on this journey. You mentioned about you thrive in discomfort.
Yes. Yep.
Speak, unpack that for me because I
Yeah.
was like, "Ooh, you."
Yes. When I spoke about that, right? I'll always like to talk about when I was one. I'm gonna talk about from the beginning, right? I remember when I believe I was like in the 6th grade, right? I was going to Maple, and at the time I was acting up, right? Just being a class clown and things like that. And I remember my teacher telling me like, "Yo, when you get home, I'm gonna call your parents, right?" And I'm like, I'm trying to act cool because my boys in them there, but deep down inside, I'm like, "Oh man, my mother about to get at me," right? And I just remember getting home. I took the longest way to get home, by the way, but I remember getting home and her telling me, "Oh, since you want to be a class clown, right? You're not playing basketball this season." And I'm just like, "What? Like basketball? Like why are you taking that from me, right?" And she signed me up for a robotics program. And at the time, that's something that I resisted, right? I didn't know nothing about no robotics. I didn't want to do no robotics. But every time I kept going after school, like it was one of those things that was just like it was intriguing, right? It was something new, and I'm like, oh man, I actually like this, right? But it was uncomfortable at first, right? Because I didn't understand it, right? It was something new to me. I never seen nobody in my neighborhood doing any robotics, right? I'm like, man, this is corny, right? But come to find out, that was the spark to my engineering career, right? And I didn't even know following now. And let me tell you a funny story about it. That program that I did, we wound up eventually a group of us wound up going up to Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken. And I remember just being on that campus in a different environment with different kids, just doing different things. That we were trying to do a competition and come in first place of whose object or whose Lego boat can maneuver the obstacle quickest. And I remember we came in third place, and I was just souped up because it was just something, just an amazing. I remember getting in the car. My mother asked me, she was like, "How was your experience?" And I was like, "Yo, it was dope. I loved it." I was like, "Yo, if I don't go to the NFL or NBA, I'm gonna be an engineer." Right. But I never thought nothing about it. Right. And like you say, you get back into reality and you realize that, okay, man, I'm gonna just play sports again. Right. And I felt like that was my only way out. So just thriving in that's one example. And also too, my high school senior year, right? Playing sports. I'm thinking like, I'm gonna go to college at a D1 school. And
Mm.
all those offers that I yearned for, all those offers that I wanted, it was nowhere to be found, right? I didn't have any offers, anything. So I was in an uncomfortable place because I'm thinking like this was my ticket, right? This was going to help me get one step closer to helping my family come from our burdens, right? But like I said, God had another plan for that, and just having to sit down and realize that I knew I didn't want high school to be my peak, right? I knew that I didn't want to be KeyShawn from a university or he played for Weekway. Like I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to be successful to enough when people say, man, like I want to be just like him when I grow older, right? And I wound up just taking the chance and going to Virginia State University. And that right there was an eye opener. That was one of the discomforts I was talking about that opened up my eyes because I remember first day of classes, I'm souped up and I'm thinking that like, I'm gonna just go in here, probably get my paperwork and I'm gonna get up out of here, right? And just enjoy college. And I remember sitting down and the teacher like, take your notebook, take your pen, right? Whatever you need to write this down. And he started going over the syllabus, the coursework, right? And he was like, okay, we're gonna start the first section today. And I'm like, what? And he started going over the different material, X over B equals this. And I'm like, oh. So I tapped the person next to me. I'm like, yo, you ever did this before? Oh, I did this in high school, man. Oh, this is easy. I tapped somebody else. You did this before? Oh, man, it's easy, man. I could get this. This ain't hard, man. And I'm like, it's like my world done collapsed because I'm like, man, I ain't never do anything like this. But to other people, it came easy. So I was faced with an opportunity, right, to either one, go back and be like, oh, this ain't for me. Let me maybe switch my major, right? Or even worse, let me go back to Newark, right? And we see where, a lot of dreams get shattered when we go back to comfort, right? So I said, I got to do something. And I knew I had people counting on me. I knew I had people believing in me. So I said, I got to do something to prove to those where I come from that you can do it. This is possible. I'm that light that's showing them through God that, listen, we can do this. And I remember setting up with a tutor, and that was one of the most humblingest things ever, right? And I was just like, man. And I remember just going after class, missing hangouts, right? Missing hanging out with my boys and stuff, just going to different tutoring, sessions. And I remember we had a test. And this is what the most eye-opening for me, right? Because we had a test. And when I took the test, I go through it. I'm doing everything. I'm filling out everything. And I go and hand my paper in. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I did okay, right? I was like, man, if this is it, then at least I tried. And I wound up getting back my paper, and I had got a C. And I was like, oh, I'm doing something here because I didn't understand it at first, right? So if I can get a C, if I continue to keep putting in that time and that effort, I can turn that C to a B, that B to an A. And that's what I did by just putting in effort and understanding that if you put it in your mind, if you work towards it, you can do it. And that's one of the things why I say I thrive in discomfort, because it shows you who you really are. And one of the things I do also want to say is that, the saying of, you find out who you are at your toughest moments, right? I like to say you find out who you are at your most comfortable moments. Because think of it like this, right? Let's say you're not feeling your weight, right? If somebody say to you, hey, you kind of big, right? That pain is going to make you be like, I got to work out. I got to get to it, right? But once you get comfortable, once somebody say, oh, you look good, like you losing weight, or you're going to be like, you know what? Let me go back to what I'm used to, right? I'm go back to my comfort. That's why I say that. That's why I say comfort shows you who you truly are, right? Because when you comfortable, you let out who you really are, right? So I think that's one of the things why I say, discomfort though did show me a lot, growing up, and I thrived in that because it taught me a lot.
I just want you to know, KeyShawn, I'm still in that. I wrote that down.
Okay, I got you.
I'm still in that. I'm definitely still in that. But that was good.
Yes,
It just reminds me of, like, as you were just speaking of how, you just made a decision.
Yes, decision.
Right? And that decision was like, I'm going to put action behind my yes.
Yes.
And I don't care what it costs me, but I'm going to do this. Yep. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing no matter what.
Yep. And like I always tell people when I speak to them, like I said, I didn't get to this point, right? And I didn't get to the place that I'm going by giving excuses, right? I had to man up. I had to figure out what I wanted. I had to stand on it, right? They say stand on business, right? And that's one of the things I had to say. Listen, I'm already going through a pain, right? Why not get a reward for it, right? And if you look back a little bit, you see how far you come. And I remember I can account, and even you probably can as well, a time where you felt like, yo, this is it, man. I'm done. I can't do that, this, that, and the third, right? And look at that now. Like you passed it, right? So I call it looking into your treasure chest, right? Digging in sometimes when you need that reminder to be like, so I remember like I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna pass this class in high school, right? I remember I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna pass coding, like how I'm gonna get this degree, right? But now I look back at it and I'm like, oh, that was just all part of the plan. That was just all part of the story and to get to my glory. So I really, like I said, just understand that standing on what you say, being a man of your word or a woman of your word, and just going after it, right? And just who cares what the results is, because at the end of the day, you're going to learn something and you're going to grow from it. I'm telling you.
That's so good. And
Yeah.
that is definitely, I can relate to that on so many levels, because I remember even like starting this journey, right?
Mhm.
Like, to be very transparent, I was a concerned more about outcome,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
really, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I want to be healed. Like,
Yes.
I want to have peace. I want to have joy. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to be happy,
Yes.
right? And not really understanding like what that in totality, what
Mhm.
that really takes. Like, right,
Yes.
like, and for me, and I'm just gonna speak for me, right?
Mhm.
I'm learning that I'm not gonna necessarily be healed,
Mhm.
right? Because, and this is why I feel like, God uses us in unique ways,
Right.
right? And he uses us to, you know what I'm saying, to birth things uniquely,
Yep.
how he designs us to birth it, right? And to
Right.
help other people.
Yep.
And, and I really begin to understand a revelation of, why, my platform is called Unmasking,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I mentioned that my last episode, that ing means ongoing,
Mm.
right? So that means that this is going to be an ongoing journey for me, right? And
Yes.
that's how God sustains my journey of me
Mhm.
knowing that I can never lose sight, and I can never do this without him.
Yes. Most
And that's
importantly.
why he has me, wear it on my shirt, living, right?
Yes.
Unmasking, right?
Yes.
Because it's a forever continue journey for me. And that's how he keeps me close. That's how
Yes.
he keeps me to rely on him, because I couldn't do none of this
Mhm.
without him. Right? He is the
Yes.
one who is directing and ordering my steps, right,
Yep.
along the way through this journey. So I can definitely relate to all of
Yes.
what you said, for
Yeah.
real, for
That, that,
real.
that is so amazing. Like I said, and you are doing an amazing job, right? And I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit, right? Of like how strong we are, right? How powerful we are. And I always just love to remind people that like you have everything you already need, right? Like God is the source. So how come you feel like you don't have anything, right? When you connected to him, and
Yeah.
you created his image, and it all starts in here. And I always say, what you tell your mind, your body will follow. So start just trying to rechange and reprogram those thoughts of, okay, I can't do this, or oh, I'm a quit, or like I said earlier, why me, right? And just more of why, like, this is for me, right? This is my purpose. This is what I'm learning. I'm going through this. I'm built tough, right? I'm like, we are, how we say we from Newark, right? And if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? So just having that power, and then just that story to say, like, I see how far I come. There's no way I'm going back there, and there's no way I'm giving up, because, like I said, I see a bright future ahead of me.
Yeah, that's so
Mm.
good. So I feel like in this moment,
Mhm.
it's very befitting,
Mhm.
right? For you to, if you were able to tell little KeyShawn
Mhm.
um something,
Mhm.
what would that something be? Like, what would that encouraging word be to little KeyShawn?
I would. There's a couple things I would tell, right? And but first and
No.
foremost, I want to first and foremost, I do want to say that everything that I've been through shaped me to the man I am today, right? So I don't regret anything, or or would change anything, but I will remind myself that the world is bigger than your environment, right? There's so much more than what you see in your neighborhood. There's more, so much more than just sports, right? There's so much more than just being a rap star, right? Or just trying to hustle. Like, there's so much more. And also, one of the most important things is believe in yourself. Work on yourself, right? Educate yourself. No one's going to hand you anything. So if you want something, you need to go and get it, right? That's why I always tell people, like, we living in an era where we have everything at the palm of our hands, right? We all have a cell phone, $1,500, however much you pay for your cell phone, right? And there's no excuse for not knowing, right? So, and it's a lot of times where I understand that I don't come from different places, right? But that's not an excuse to say that I can't learn that. And that's one of my goals now. What I tell myself now is just to be intentional about growing,
Mm,
understanding and taking what you're learning and applying it, right? I think one of the things that I felt like even when I was in school, I was learning to pass and not learning to ingest and to learn and to be able to use and adapt, right? I think that's one of the things that where I will say to my younger self is just enjoy the journey, enjoy the moment. And man, you're doing your thing in your future, man. So just be proud of yourself. So I think that's what I tell myself.
I wish I had a horn like brum, 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 brum.
Yes.
I gotta get some sound effects.
Yeah.
The crowd goes
There you
wild.
go, crowd. I
Yeah,
appreciate
that's
that.
so. You know what? And I really feel like it's so necessary for
Mhm.
us to I would say parent our
Mhm.
younger self, right?
Yes.
Because there's some things that were missed, right? That, and I'm learning, like, especially just from being in school. Like right now, I'm taking a class, right, and just talking about like child development and all that
Yes.
stuff, and
Mhm.
and how just that connection, with your caregiver, whether
Yeah.
it's your parent or whatever the case may be, and how important that is, early on, right, from the
Yep.
time you come out of the womb until like it shapes, what I'm saying,
Yep.
who this person will be as an adult.
Right.
Right. So I feel like it's very befitting, for a person like me who has begun to go, has been in therapy for some time now,
Mhm.
right? And really kind of identifying, right, some things that I've gone through that hurt,
Yeah.
right, and how it shows up as being an adult woman.
Mhm.
Right. And sometimes I have to go back and tell little Naisha, like, you're okay.
Yes.
You're
You're doing
okay.
fine. Yes.
Like, you're doing fine, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're okay, and I want you to believe in yourself, right?
Yep.
Because sometimes that always wasn't the case, right?
Yep.
And not to discredit, right? Like I feel even with maturing more right now
Mhm.
on this journey, right? And looking at it from a different lens with my mother, right?
Mm.
There were certain things that was not done for me, right? But that was because she was going through her own stuff too as well.
Yeah.
Right? So now being a mother, right,
Yeah.
and looking at it from that lens,
Mhm.
um, I have to, what was missed, I sometimes now have to go back
Yep.
and tell
Yep.
little Naisha, like, you're okay.
Yep.
You're safe.
Yes.
You're
You
doing
are.
good. I need you to listen. We're going to take a break right now. Right. Like I
Yep.
constantly, I am, and I find that very helpful for me. It
Yeah.
may not work for everybody.
Right.
Right. But I find it very helpful for me to
Mhm.
allow me to continue on this journey.
Yes. And one of the things I wanna piggyback off of that you were talking about or just give some insight on as well. I know you were mentioning that there's some things that your mom didn't teach you and now you're learning on your own, right? And that's one of the things where believe it or not, you are breaking generational curses, right? And that's one of the biggest things when it's so important. I know I talk about the mindset, but also just the understanding of you have to rewire how you think, right? A lot of times you don't know how normal something is, or you don't know how unnormal, I meant to say, something is until you get out of it, right? Growing
Mhm.
up, go back to like North and just growing up and just in that environment, you thought it was cool, like you know what I'm saying, to gang bang, or you thought it was cool to be, hustling or being a tough guy. That was cool, right? Until you get out of that, or just going to jail, just be coming back and forth in and out the system, or and you just when you get out of that, when you remove yourself from that, you're like, man, like that was not normal. Like that is not something that you know that we should be accustomed to, right? Let's try to change that so the people that's coming behind us can't fall in that same trap, right? And I feel like a lot of times it's the blind leading the blind, right? And it's just like, oh, if you do it this way, look what I'm doing, and it's like that's short term, right? We trying to do long term. We're looking at longevity. So I always just try to talk about just that generational curse, and but it goes back to the rethinking of the mind and how you see things and how you speak on things. And I think that's really, like I said, I want to say you're doing a great job with that. So just congratulations on breaking those generational curses because it start with you. So that's amazing.
Right back at you.
Yes.
Right
Yes.
back at you, right? Because even like going back,
Hmm.
um, right, you had mentioned how, you know, your dad,
Hmm.
right, how he ended up, getting caught up
Yeah.
in the system, right?
Yeah.
And like, how did that even have an impact on your life?
So I like to say, so growing up, I've missed it on both sides, right? Far as I'm like when I used to go and see people with their father, I wanted my father to be at the games and things like that, just cheering me on. like I yearn for that, right? But also too, a lot of times I was a little bit angry at my
Mhm.
father, right? A lot of times because I'm like, man, like he's not here for those moments that I needed him the most. And but the one thing I did realize though, and when I reflect on now, yeah, he may not have been there physically, but his presence was helpful through my early years of my journey, right? Because my father, he may have not led the path of where the success I'm at right now, or he may not show me the path to get to be an engineer or things like that. But he did was a stand-up guy, right? He is a stand-up guy, and he always loved his people, his family, those that was around him. And that kind of showed me that take care of your family, right? Know that it's gonna be trouble in some times, right? But be loyal to those that are trying to benefit you and not the ones that's trying to pull you down. And I think that's one of the things, like I said, I give thanks to my pops for, I feel like he did what he did, and that kind of helped like deter me from going down that path, right? And if it was glamorized, if he was one of those type of dudes that would be like, yo, look at me, man, look what I did, like type of thing, then I probably would have fell in that trap. But thanks to him just showing me like, this ain't what you want, man. This ain't the route to go. Like it's always better, do better. And that was always his message, is just go be you, man, live your life. So I always give credit to my pops for that.
That's dope. That's
Yeah.
so dope. That
Yeah.
that is that's good. That's so good to hear, because your dad, I know your dad too as well.
Mhm.
And he's just so chill and
Yeah. Cool
like,
dude.
like, and he is like, what I'm saying, he
Yep.
loves hard.
Yes, he
Um,
does.
yeah, so I can, yeah, kudos,
And
kudos to your
yeah, and like you said, and that's why I want to pinpoint on that of like loving hard, but loving the right people, right? Because a lot
Mhm.
of times our loyalty leads to our downfall, right? And as you know, in stories like that, of a lot of times us being loyal to the wrong thing and just trying to be there for those that know that they wouldn't even throw a pot of water on us if we was on fire, right? So just having understanding that be loyal to the right things, not the wrong things. So
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things I learned.
that's good. And like, so I understand too, right? Like, because a lot of times we
Mhm.
do stuff too out of obligation,
Yeah.
right?
We feel.
Because we feel like, well, at one point this person was there, right? So like
Mhm.
we have
Mhm.
to, right?
Yep.
When that that only does a disservice for yourself,
Yep.
right? So when you speak to, like, make sure that you are loving the
Yeah.
right people, right? Like,
Yes.
and and you'll know,
Yes,
what I'm
you will.
saying? Like, you'll know real
Yep.
from what's not real,
Yep.
right? If you allow yourself, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? to-
And to
it-
those that are listening, like I always say that they always say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future, right? And I
Mhm.
think that's so, so important because a lot of times we surround ourselves with discomfort, right? We surround ourselves with people that's not pushing us, right? They just comfortable with being around, right? Because we may be scared of the uncomfortableness, right? And a lot of times, if you want to grow, if you want to get out of that, you got to change who you're around. I always tell people, you're the CEO of your own business. You're running a business right now, believe it or not. So you need to sit down and assess, okay, is this person pushing me closer to my goal or further
Mm,
away? How are they adding benefits? Like I always tell people around me, if it ain't beneficial to all of us as a whole, right? If you're not helping me get to the end goal, right? There's no point of us hanging around, right? Like I said, I got goals, I got things that I'm trying to get to. So if you're not helping with that, I ain't got time to be, sitting around gossiping and just reliving stories that we already,
mm.
talked about 20 times, right? It's time to move forward. It's time to move on, right? Because like I said, I live life every single day. So I have a new story every single day. And I'm just grateful every time I wake up because God blessed me with those 24 hours. So I want to use those 24 hours in the best way possible and not take it for granted.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's actually a good, like, segue into forgiveness,
Yes.
right? Um, and what you mentioned about forgiveness, what kind of just stuck out to me was, you said it's about choosing peace over pain and
Hmm.
growth over guilt.
Yeah.
Speak to that.
I feel like a lot of time the forgiveness part is a tough thing, but I feel like a lot of times it's about having the peace and forgiving. Like I know a lot of times where I'm angry at something, if I don't forgive it off my chest, like I'm not making room for love, right? I'm not making room for people that do want to help and benefit, right? And I feel like for me, just having that understanding that the forgiveness part is not for the other person. And I think that a lot of times I thought like, man, this person trying to play me out, right? Or this person playing with me, but I don't want
Right.
to forgive them or whatever, right? But it's like I'm forgiving you because I got better things to do, and I'm making room and I'm making space for love. I'm making space for peace. And I think for me, I think that was one of the most powerful things is just having the power to forgive and having the power to say, you did me wrong, or I didn't like what you did there, but I'm gonna be better at what I do, and I'm gonna keep moving forward. So you lost out on that. I always feel like that.
Right. And if you could forgive yourself for something,
Mhm.
right? What would that be?
I think one of the things I will forgive myself for. There were plenty of times even on like my career, my journey, right? And just living is just letting fear of the unknown, right? Or just insecurity hold me back. Just like, just questioning whether like I'm good enough or am I capable enough. Like I always told you, like when I went to college, like I didn't feel like, I didn't belong there, right? I felt like this wasn't for me. And I felt like every time I learned from, that setback, every time I had made a mistake, I felt like this was a reason for why I shouldn't be there, right? I was like, see, this is why I failed the test because I'm not good at math, right? Like I'm from Newark, right? I didn't nobody taught me this, right? And one of the things of just that but forgiving myself for talking down on myself, I think that's one of the things I want to encourage myself to say, why was you talking down on yourself, man? You dope, man. Like if you put your mind to it, bro, like look how far you came, man. Like stop doubting yourself. And I think that right there is what I forgive myself for doubting my own potential, even when
Mm,
other people believed in me first. So now, like I said, I have that power in me to say, like, and I see it. Like I see the results of me putting in time, me putting in effort. I think that's what I want to say I forgive myself for, not believing in myself early.
that's good.
Mm.
That's good. That's because it just reminds me of, my tagline, there's a greater you on the inside of you, right?
Mhm.
But again, the first person really who has to realize that is you. And you said
Yeah.
it, right? You
Yeah.
said that, other people were believing in you, but you didn't
Yep.
believe in yourself.
Yep. And there was a lot of times when they say like the worst enemy and the biggest enemy you gotta conquer is yourself. And once you conquer yourself, anything is easy to right. And I feel like for me, it took a lot of just trying, taking one step at a time and just going with it and just like, oh wow, I did that. Oh wow, I didn't know I did that. Oh, I won this, I did this, and it's just showing like, man, like you are a beast, like you dope, like you that dude, man. Like and I think for me, just gave me back that power and that energy. And now, like I said, I push it to others to take off those blinders and say, like, man, I'm dope. Even in whatever I'm going through, I'm bigger than the odds, right? And I think that's one of the keys to any success in life is self-belief and believing in yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
Self-belief. That
Yeah.
is yeah. And I'm quite sure a lot of us could relate to that, right? I know
Yeah.
we could.
Yeah, and I always tell people is that like we see people at their highest and we say we want to be like that, right? But we
Mhm.
never know the journey that it took to get them there and the steps that they had to take to get there. Prime example is Jay-Z, right? A lot of people see Jay-Z now as a billionaire, success mogul, right? Beyonce, right? Just good for loving family. They see that, but people don't understand and realize if you're not, if you don't know Jay-Z like that, that early in his career, nobody wanted to sign him. He was
Mm,
rapping too fast, right? Nobody wanted to put a dollar on him, right? And he wound up creating his own record label. He put his own money in. He funded his own dream, right? Why? Because he believed. He said he knew I was great before I even started. And that's one of the things where I say having that self-belief is key, even when nobody else sees it, right? Because you know
mhm.
your worth. And when you know your worth, like hey, the road is endless to success, right? So I always want to say that self-belief is so powerful. It's like a magic wand, right? You tell yourself to do something, and if you really believe it, it becomes powerful. It's one of the exercises I do in my workshops where I tell someone, I say, hey, how many push-ups can you do? And they'll be like, oh, I could do like 10. I'll be like, okay, let me get 10 push-ups. And they'll
Right.
do 10 push-ups, right? And I'll be like, okay, now listen, I got $100 in this pocket right here. You can have it if you can do more than 10 push-ups. And I'll be like, and they'll go down and they'll do push-ups. They'll be like, oh, I did 15, I did 20. And I said, wait, I thought you said you only could do 10. And I'll be like, they're like, they're like, yeah, because now you told me I was gonna get a reward. And I was like, see, you thinking about the reward, but see, the reward is not the cash. The reward is just to show you that if you put in hard work and if you truly believe in something, you believe that you was gonna get that reward. So you put in your hard time. But what if you take the reward as your journey and yourself and the growth that you did for stepping up and doing more than what you said you can do, right? And kids always be like, wow, man, like I ain't never think of it like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's how life is. You put your craft and your time into something and you truly believe, like nothing can stop you, right? Especially when you got God on your side. Like ain't nothing greater than that, right? So I feel like that is really key.
That's so dope. So I want you to kind of, as we have a few more minutes, I want you to, because I know that you do have a platform, right? And I kind of want you to share, your business and your mission and your purpose and all that stuff. Give us some insight on, on what, even though, I mean, you've been talking, right, about it. You can just tell the mindset is just you, right? But kind of like give us a little snippet of, what you do.
Yeah. So in my business, right, the Mindset Shifter is a personal and leadership development company where like my mission is just to inspire and empower people to overcome obstacles, embrace resilience, right, and just unlock their full potential that they already have. I'm just opening up that door. And like I told you earlier, like I'm like that battery. So when a company or organization bring me out, they can expect that their audience, that the people that's there, are going to leave out feeling like Superman, right? And like my goal, is to take the messages into the schools, into the organizations, and just around the world, just helping those that want to help, students, professionals, communities, right? Just shifting their mindset to just achieve greatness, but not just through words, right? Through action and showing them that how to shift your mindset, right? How to write a goal, right? How to have a plan, how to network, right? And I do all of these different exercises to equip you, not just with the motivation, because that wears out, right? But just actionable steps that you can take. And anytime you get up against a wall, you can say, okay, KeyShawn Phelps, the Mindset Shifter, showed me that, okay, I need to plan this. Okay, cool. He told me that, understand the journey that's going to take time. Cool. Okay, now I need to network. I need to get out there. I need to speak to people. I need to shake hands, right? I need to follow up with those that I met that can help me, propel me, get to that goal. And I think I always tell people, like, this thing of the messages, anyone that will benefit from hearing this powerful message, if you know somebody that needs this message, a school or organization, all I ask for is just for you to share the opportunity, right? Just to share, like, hey, I know this young man, he has the tools to transform, and like, let's just work together just to spread that mindset shift globally. And I think that's my goal and my plan, is just to get this message all around the world and to every person, every student, any organization that needs that mindset shift. And that's why I'm here.
So I want everybody just to drop in the chat #shift.
Yeah.
Just #shift. Right? Yeah. Like that's super dope. So I actually need to talk to you offline.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanna connect with you to kind of just get some, and that's another thing, right? Like, the reason why we do right what we do is to know that we're not alone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, we're both unique in our own way, right?
Yes, we
That
are.
doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying, we don't come together, you know what I'm saying, and work towards being a better version of ourselves. That's
Yes.
really, you know what I'm saying? That's what it all is in a nutshell, right? When you begin to, you know what I'm saying, build community, right? It's for us to be able to, you know what I'm saying, see like, wow, we could be better, right? We could be better if we do it together.
To do it together, right? You say you can't spell community without unity, and that's where it starts at. And it's just about, just helping each other and, like, not looking down on nobody, but just helping uplifting the next person and just teaching the next person, you know what I'm saying, reach one, teach one. So I think that's one of the things I think that's really, really powerful. And one of the things why I love doing this is because I'm still at a young age where I'm still learning. So those that I talk to are learning with me, right, through different experiences. But also they can see someone that looks like them at a young age, and it's not like, oh man, because you know you usually have different speakers that speak from a different perspective, but they're a little bit more experienced, right, a little bit more wiser. But a lot of times when it comes to connecting to the youth, it's like, man, I'm gonna get to that age and I'm gonna be like that, right? But no, why wait to then when you can do it now, right? And I'm a prime example of that, of taking ownership of your life and educating yourself now. So when that time does come or when that opportunity does not, are you ready?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so dope. That's so
Yes.
dope.
Thank you.
Well, you know, it's our time.
Yes.
This podcast was super dope.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate you. All the way from, you are in Florida, right?
Yes, I'm in Florida. Yes, I'm in Florida now. Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we
Yeah.
connected, you know what I'm saying, from state to
Yep.
state,
State to state.
right?
Yeah, we
Um,
global.
yes, 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 yes. I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for your yes, for your willingness to come on, and kind of just speak to your journey. I really,
Yes.
really appreciate you, for
Yes.
real.
And I
Just
want to thank
keep doing
you.
your thing. Keep doing your
Thank
thing.
you. And I want to thank you. And before I get out of here, if you can, please follow me on social medias.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
follow me on YouTube at the Mindset Shifter _. You can find me on all social media platforms. If you want to check out my website to bring me into your school or your organization, or just to speak to students or anyone at that point, is www.themindsetshifter.org, and you can find me. You can find all my information, and let's connect. I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to wrap this up by giving thanks to you as well for giving me the platform and just positive energy and just understanding that together, right? Just passing this message, we can have a bigger impact than just one person. So I thank you so much. I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I will
Yeah.
definitely make sure as soon as we get offline, because I know you gave me all your how people can get in contact with you. So I'll
Yeah.
put everything in the comment section on,
Okay. Perfect.
both on YouTube and on Facebook. So if
Okay.
anybody wants to connect with you,
Yes.
definitely reach out. Definitely reach out.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm looking forward for bigger
Yes.
and great things.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so
All right,
much.
everybody.
Thank
So
you,
thank you
everyone.
so much. Good night. Everybody be safe. It's supposed to be nice on Saturday. So enjoy, do something
Yes.
fun. And we out. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
All right. Peace, everyone.